It
So
doesn't
are we
look
live,
too
Kelly?
bad. Yeah,
Okay, did it improve?
not really. It's not too bad, but
That looks pretty good. On this one, it looks good, but
okay.
oh, let me turn this off. That photo booth was on in the background. Wonder if that had anything to do with it. Did you get rid of the camera control thing that was open?
No, it's down there on the tab part. It looks good right now. Looks like it's coming into focus. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay. That looks good. It doesn't look as blurry. That looks quite good.
Okay.
Okay, we have 3 people in the room. I just want to let you guys know we haven't started yet. We're just straightening out the webcam.
We can ask them how the focus looks.
Oh yeah. Does it look too blurry or does it look okay?
Well, let me get so that I'm not leaning across too. Let me check something. What it is, guys, is we just turned the autofocus off because that was a complaint we had last time.
There's a chat box on the right of your screen, I think, or the left.
It sure looks clear here.
Yeah, it looks a lot better than it was before. Yeah, it looks good, Steph.
Okay, good. Do you want to go to 2 screens?
Sure. Okay, there we go. Grace wrote highlight looks great.
Good. We could do this. Well, what we'll do when we start, we can
Just throw everything off that.
would have been easier to sit in Chester's chair, but can't let that happen.
No.
It's not carried away. That's right.
Well,
But that's okay.
there. Now we're together. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes. And we have 9 people in the room. So if you want to say hello and where you're watching from while we wait.
And I won't explain to them that I won't be able to talk.
Oh yeah, because I've got the headphones in. I don't know.
They'll hear my voice plenty.
Okay. Oh,
Maybe they can hear me
yeah.
because this thing there.
Yeah.
Okay, so where's Grace from? Georgia? Grace Georgian from Georgia? She can hear us.
She can hear you. See, that looks good there.
Yeah.
Memphis. That's Pat. She's gonna.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna see her later this year.
And the picture, Pat, down there, the little picture. Well, you probably can't tell now because it's so small.
California.
Grace Georgian is from Florida. She came really close to being a Georgian from Georgia.
Southern Ohio.
Okay.
California.
Like around Cincinnati? Central Valley, California. Okay. Central Valley, is that Fresno-y? California's so huge. It is ginormous. You don't realize it until you start driving in it.
I feel that way about Kansas.
Just because it's monotonous. You go and go and go and it looks the same. Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Texas feels like you're never going to get out of it.
Yeah.
You leave Dallas and you think, oh, I'm almost in Houston. Mm-mm. You are not almost in Houston.
I'm going to exit out of these.
Oh, yeah. I need to turn the router off. I've got some work to do. Phone plug?
Mm-hmm. We have to unplug our phones just in case the phone rings.
Oh, and I need to make sure my alarms on my phone are turned off.
I heard you before, but nothing for the last couple of minutes. Can you not hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I bet they can hear me.
Yeah, they can hear me.
Okay, good.
Okay, well, we've got not too long now until we can start. It's freezing and I've had to reconnect. I think that may have to do with your Wi-Fi signal. If everyone else can see us and hear us fine. I would advise making sure that your device that you're on is the only one connected to the Wi-Fi. That way you can have the strongest signal streaming to your device.
Minutes.
You've got someone from Astoria?
Oregon. Must be, right?
I don't know where that is.
Yeah. Astoria, Oregon. That's where my cousin Summer Oja lives, and I want to go there really bad because it's beautiful.
What's a Summer Oja?
That's her last name. It's
Oh.
OJA.
Oh,
I think it's pronounced
I
Ogen.
thought it was like some cool summer house.
Do you know where Astoria? You know that the
Kansas?
Astors made Astoria.
No.
Yeah. It was a fur trading town. Fur town. Which way is this the new emperor or is that the new?
Up at the top.
Oh, reconnecting.
Do you know what your mic is picking up? The AC coming on.
Oh, you can hear it?
Yeah, I just heard
Wow.
it turn on.
Maybe we should turn the AC off. The heater. But you'd get really cold and have to wrap yourself in
It's
your
not.
cat
It's not
blanket.
that bad. Like I could just hear it.
Okay.
I can't wrap myself in my cat blanket. Not after last time.
Speaking of cat blankets. I know. He's bringing his blanket with him. It's like, oh, it's on that hot blanket. Okay. Sorry.
Was it warm?
Yes. Okay, so we have 2 minutes. We've got some people in the room. More people will be joining. On a very positive note, we don't have snow here tonight. Last time on Tuesday, when we did the webinar, we were getting a snowstorm, and we were a little bit worried because sometimes when things get stormy, it can affect the internet, but it all went well.
It just affected the roads.
Yes, it did. That was a little spooky. And we've got some people in here. We're going to, hopefully more will join in the next 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll start.
And I'm going to walk over to the other room and do my thing while you're doing your thing.
Mm-hmm.
You do your thing here, and I'll do my thing over there. I'm so bossy. She actually told me that the other day. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
She said, "You're bossy."
I said, "You're being so bossy."
I was like,
Really?
I've had an employee tell me that before in real life.
Yeah, me.
Well, Phil did.
Oh, yeah.
He said, "You're so bossy." I was like, kind of am your boss a little bit.
Okay, I think we can start now.
Okay. We've got Kathy Cleary from Arizona, too. All righty. Let's
Okay.
see. Is it right on 7? No, it's not even 7 yet. We've got 1 more minute.
Okay.
I just would hate for somebody to join in at 7 and we're talking about them. Oh, thank you. Somebody loves my hair. It's funny because I have mixed feelings about my hair this way. I like it this way, and then sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I look like Nick Nolte's DUI photo. Just a little bit.
You're so hard on yourself. That's not true at all.
Sometimes.
You woke up like that.
I just roll out of bed. That's how I roll out of bed, by the way. Oh, June from Florida.
We've got lots of Floridians.
Floridians. Texas. Both are very huge states.
Okay, it's 7.
Okay. Hi, guys.
Thanks for joining tonight's webinar. We've just been on for the last 10 minutes or so trying to straighten out our webcam, so hopefully it will be perfect and clear looking for you when we make that screen bigger when Stephanie goes into the other room. So I'm going to start off with showing a slideshow presentation of all the projects that you're going to learn how to do tonight, and then I will talk to you about the tutorials and the emails and how to watch the replay.
I will go ahead and slip into the other room. See you guys. You're just going to see my hands. It's just going to be my hands.
You'll come back at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so tonight's webinar, as you know, is called Going Deep, and you'll find out why. has a lot to do with deep glass. So the takeaways you're going to be taking away tonight are you're going to learn how to polish castings with absolutely no cold working, how to create less bubbles in thick castings. You're going to learn how to include Frick casting in your projects. You're going to learn how to build backwards, how to add texture to thick castings, how to make gold inclusions, which is one of my favorites, and I think you guys will get a kick out of learning how to do that, and also how to use different colored glass to make reactions. So here's one of the projects that you might have seen on social media. It was quite popular on there, the desktop koi pond. And then Stephanie will show you all the different ways to use the techniques you'll learn in this project in different pieces of glass and with different Frick castings. Then we've got this heart bouquet just in time for Valentine's Day with the nipped pieces of glass on top to create that beautiful blossoming flower, and then even a little Frick cast flower on top. And then this is also one of my favorites. It's the constellation dome, where Stephanie will show you how to make these beautiful horoscope signs in a galaxy themed looking piece of glass. And that gold is featured there again. And then we've got the kitchen sink, which I think is Stephanie's favorite because she loves projects like these where she'll just grab all the scrap glass she has and make something really beautiful with it. And then we've got that love heart pendant there with the gold in it too. So that is what you're going to be learning tonight. And right now I'm going to share the file with you, which is the project tutorials. I'm going to try to make myself bigger. And oh, I'm going to share them now. So you should see that I'm sharing a file, and that's the tutorials for all the projects that you're going to see tonight with the materials list. So you can download that now and have it in the background so that you can refer back to it. You can print it out or you can save it to later. I'll also be including it in an email that you'll get an hour or an hour and a half after this webinar. And in that email will be a YouTube link to this exact video that you're watching tonight. It will be the replay link. And I'm uploading it into YouTube because that way you'll have the option to fast forward and rewind. Whereas the replay link that this webinar jam has, it doesn't allow you to do that. So I think you guys would prefer if you could pause it and rewind it, because I know that's been an issue with our past webinars. But in order to do that, I'll have to download this and upload it to YouTube. So it won't be straight away that you'll get the replay, but it will be about an hour to an hour and a half after you're finished watching this. And there'll be some more notes and then the tutorials in there also. So how this works is Stephanie is going to go through all the projects with you, and you can ask questions in the chat box there on the side. I'll mark them as questions and I'll read them out to her as we go along. If you're watching this as a replay, you can email us your questions, or you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just email us the questions, or you can call us. And then if you're watching on Webinar Jam, you can still type them in and they'll be emailed to us. And then just some more tips are, if you get kicked out of the room because of the connection, you'll be able to get back in pretty easily. So don't panic about that. Make sure that your device you're on, whether it's your iPad or your iPhone or your tablet, is the only one connected to the Wi-Fi in your home, because I think this being a webinar is streaming a lot of the Wi-Fi, and so we'll need probably all of it. And I think that about sums it up. If you have any questions, you can just ask them in the box there, and yeah, I'll put Stephanie on now. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, I had my mic on.
Okay, I'm just going to make you bigger.
Mic on mute.
Okay.
Okay, let's get a check real quick. Are we happy with this, Kelly?
Yes, I think so. I think it looks good. It's
Okay.
focusing on.
So
on the
guys,
mold.
what we did is we turned the autofocus off of our webcam, because in the last webinar, it had a tendency to try and focus off and on when I moved my hands. And so that's why we're making a big fuss about, we want to make sure this is good. And so the first project we're going to do is the bouquet heart. And it is one of my favorite projects that I've ever made. This was the first one I did. And my inspiration for this one was those flowers that you see blooming in tea. There's some tea out there that they will put a flower in and it blossoms in the tea, not blossoms, but opens. And so I kind of Googled some images on that and created this one first. And I was very happy with it, but I was a little bit bothered that it had so many bubbles in it. You can see it like that. And so I wanted to see how I could eliminate some of those bubbles. I'm going to talk to you about how to build this one while I'm building this other one. What I knew was happening is whenever you use frit, little tiny pieces of glass to build, you are inviting more air bubbles because it's more air in the project to begin with. And so I decided to make one with sheet glass. And so this is the one that I made using the technique I'm going to demo real quick for you. And you can see that the clarity there is pretty amazing. You do not see very many bubbles at all. And so the way that I did this one is I started with a little bit of frit in the center of this mold. And I did figure this out just today. I think the best way to do this, before what I would do is put the frit in the middle and then surround it with glass. Then I decided that it actually makes sense to put frit in the bottom of the mold and leave a gap put glass in the bottom of the mold and leave a gap to put the frit in. And I tell you the reason that is when you put the frit in first and then move the glass around, you're going to end up moving the frit into kind of unnatural shapes. Here's one I did in the last webinar, and you can see the frit it got squeezed a little bit when I was moving the glass around. And so I'm going to do this one different. What I did is I used a mosaic nipper and clear sheet glass and filled the bottom of this cavity with a layer of sheet glass. And then I just put a center of focus, a little focal point area of some real strongly pigmented frit. This frit that I'm happy to be using is Val Cox frit. Some of you that have been on social media have probably seen some of this being talked about. It's very highly pigmented. A lot of it is leaded, and that is why it is so highly pigmented. And it's just a little bit more burst of color than you'll get from some frit. If you don't have that, you can always use Turns Pink and Mauve, or I think maybe Cranberry. Bullseye has some colors too that are pretty. What we're looking for is a real pretty purple and pink center. And so I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm going to, I did this too. Here's an improvement on this process too. I super glued these petals together. I used a mosaic nipper, and I nipped 5 petals from a piece of sheet glass that is really pretty, kind of a variegated purple and pink. It's a newly fusible glass by Oceanside. And it's in your list of materials. I'm thinking it was purple and white streaky, but it's in your list of materials. That's the only downside to getting new fusible glasses. I don't know the names by heart anymore. But any purple or pink or any kind of petal color that appeals to you will work. I used a mosaic nipper and just nipped these little petal shapes. And then I took a little piece and super glued the petals together just so that I could arrange them in this process. So what I would do here is I would just put this with that center side down in the middle with the center where the frit is. And I've done that already here. And then I used a mosaic nipper and filled around those petals with clear sheet glass also. What I'm trying to do is build dimension and clarity. And so I'm doing that with nipped sheet glass. If I just put it all on one layer, it won't be as thick and rich looking as what we're going to be doing, which is continuing to add clear sheet glass around the petals. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use nipped pieces of green, both transparent, and actually I'm going to put some of these almond pieces right underneath. Just it's actually just a artistic preference. These almond pieces coming out from around the flower, I think, just add some flair, and so I'm going to add them. And you guys need to remember too that we're working backwards. What's down in the mold is going to be up in the finished piece, and so think of that. If you're using glass that has color on one side as opposed to the color on the other, you want to put the color down that you want showing on the top. And so I'm just going to put my ivory colored, I think that's all actually almond colored pieces down. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of sheet glass. I've pre-cut up some pieces, but it looks like I need to make some smaller. This isn't really an exact science. The point being that we're trying to use bigger pieces of glass than frit to eliminate the air bubbles that come with frit. And so I'm just adding glass, including over the petals, because I'm trying to add some dimension between the flower and the leaves that are going to follow it. In a perfect world, you would be able to use your mosaic nippers and fill in the entire area, but it's not 100% that important to get it all covered, because this is an organic thing we're building. And so the glass moving a little forward and a little bit backward is fine. So now this is actually my third layer of glass in this mold. The first layer was the frit and clear glass. The second layer was the petals and clear glass. The third layer is the almond petals, I guess they are, maybe they're leaves, and clear glass. And now we're going to put our green leaves in, which I created using that same mosaic nipper technique. I'm just going to put them, remembering that I'm only going to see the stuff that's not right behind the flower. This is, I've got some, that is moss green. I've got some sea green. And then I have a color that is new to me that I've listed on your material list. It's a, I think it's a green clear streaky by Oceanside. But you can use your own. Just make sure that everything you're using is compatible and fusible. Now I'm just going to add sheet glass. If I want to, I can add another layer of leaves to make it look even more dimensional. I also, on this one, I put a little bit of amber in there because it was actually tea that this was in. And so you can throw a little bit of frit in there if you want more color. Just a little. As a matter of fact, if we want to, we can use a little bit of frit on the top to help fill some of these gaps. Some clear frit. It takes a little bit less time to use frit than it does to use a mosaic nipper and fill the whole thing. So now what I'm going to do is, after I get this cavity filled with basically 4 layers of glass, I'm going to fire it using the firing schedule that's provided in your material and information sheet. It is a full fuse with a nice bubble squeeze. If you have a full fuse with a nice bubble squeeze that you like for your kiln, by all means use that one. If not, the one that I have used is 275 an hour to 1150. and hold for 60 minutes, and then 50 degrees an hour up to 1300 degrees and hold for 30 minutes, and then 350 an hour to 1470 and hold for 10. Many of you will have kilns that full fuse at a lower temperature than that. I recommend taking that top temperature down if you know your kiln will do a full fuse at a lower temperature.
Stephanie?
Okay, so I've just filled that cavity with a lot of sheet glass. I'm going to fire it, and then
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, we have a question. Can you please repeat what different layers are?
Okay, the first layer, and you can kind of see it on this one. So this is the one we did on Tuesday. I put frit down in the center of the cavity, and then I surrounded it with clear sheet glass. Then I put the petals, the flower, over the frit, over the sheet glass, and then surrounded this flower in the mold with clear sheet glass. And then after I had that full, I added the almond little embellishments. I think they're petals. And then I put sheet glass around that. And then I used the green leaves and sheet glass and filled the mold. And so I want to show you, so I could have done that same process using frit only. So on, not only frit, but instead of the clear nipped glass. So on this one, I put the frit in the middle. I put the petals around it, and then I put clear frit around it. And then I put the next layer of nipped pieces and clear frit around that. And then I put the next layer. So it's easier because it's easier to pile frit. And so I put my colorful frit in the center, surrounded that with some clear, and then I put my petals around it on top of the colorful frit, and then filled that area with clear frit, and then continued to add the different layers. So you can kind of see as I turn it sideways.
Arlen would like to know, why does it look so cloudy?
Which one? This one? I'm glad you asked, because that's what we're going to do next. This is the one that we fired on Tuesday. And this was the side that was in the kiln. So if you look at this side, it's not cloudy at all. When I open the mold, the kiln, you can see it's nice and clear. But this is the side I'm using. All of these projects, we're using the volume of the mold to create this dome kind of looking glass. And so that's why I'm going to now fire polish it. I'm going to put some petals on top where this frit is, and I'm going to glue those into place, or I'm going to place them on in the kiln. And so I put my petals over where that colorful frit is, and then add a couple little pieces of transparent green as leaves. And then I'm going to fire this project. I'm going to put this in on a level kiln shelf. See if I can turn that a little bit. A level kiln shelf, and fire it using the firing schedule provided, which is 250 degrees an hour to 750 degrees, hold for 20 minutes. Then 275 an hour to 1150, hold for 30. 350 an hour to 1310 and hold for 10. And then as fast as possible to the annealing temperature of 950, hold for 120 minutes, then 100 degrees an hour to 800, hold for 10. That firing schedule might be a little bit more annealing than this body of glass will require, but I used the same fire polish firing schedule for this small project as I did the others. So what's going to happen while we fire that is it's going to put a sheen on the glass, and it's going to tack fire our flower into place. And so you can see this is no longer cloudy. In your handout, I may put a little asterisk in or a note about checking your kiln. You're going to want to check your kiln on this project because everybody's kiln runs a little different. So with mine, what I do is I set an alarm on my kiln to go off between 1250 degrees and 1300 degrees. And I put my project in the kiln so that I can look through the peephole of the kiln to the surface of the glass. if I look in and I start to see a nice gloss, that's a good sign. If I look in and it still looks like there's some surface imperfections from the mold and it's more matte looking, I need to let it hold longer. And so the reason that you're going to need to look is two reasons. One, it could be that your kiln will be going too hot. If that happens, the glass will spread because this is a lot of glass. If you take it too hot for too long, it's going to spread and become a strange shape. And so if you want to keep the shape the same, you want it to just stop at a fire polish. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to take it to that fire polish temperature, tack fire the petals on, and then when we come out, when we open the kiln, it'll come out, it'll be nice and glossy like this. And so that is the trick on firing these projects and getting a nice glossy finish is a fire polish. And that is something that's fairly new to me, I'll be honest. I'm excited about it. I'm becoming a fire polishing queen, haven't I, Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny how you get into something. I seriously did not know I could do it. Now I'm doing it all the time. Okay, so that is that project. Do we have any questions, Kelly?
No, we don't have any more questions.
All right. So I think you understand that this one I made using frit and the petal pieces, just building layers all the way up in the mold. This one I used nipped sheet glass and you get less air bubbles. They're both beautiful. This one's actually faster because you can use frit. And then what we're going to do when they come out of the kiln, they're going to look gloss. They're going to look matte like this. We're going to fire polish them. And that gives us an opportunity to add any glass to the top that we want. As a matter of fact, on this one, I added a little bit of that Val Cox frit to the top during the fire polish because I just wanted a little bit more punch. Okay, so that is that project. Now we're going to go on to building our desktop koi pond. So this is the finished desktop koi pond that I made a little while ago. And there's something you need to do. A trick that I found to make this cap nice and clear. It's kind of hard for you to see from the top, but there's about 3/4 of an inch of very clear glass on top of that to help with the clarity, and it adds depth. When you're looking at this, it actually looks like a big dome of water sitting on a desk. And so the first times I tried using that, I just used a lot of frit. I used scrap glass, but that's a very deep and large mold. And so I thought to myself, I do know how to make a real clear piece of glass, and that is by using an aperture pour. And so I'm going to have to move the camera up. Hopefully we stay in focus. So what I did is I used the dome mold that we're going to build that on. And I put, this is a handy thing. It's a Delphi Studio mold. It's an aperture pour mini pot that happens to fit right over this dome. And so I put about 280 grams of clear glass in here and fired it at an aperture pour, and it cast a piece of clear down in the bottom of this mold, and then I use that as the top of my paperweight. You can also use this setup, which I used, and it worked very successfully. I just put a couple of kiln posts across my mold, and then I put this little flower pot across, filled that with the 280 grams of clear scrap, and cast it down into the mold. But I need to tell you this mold's been treated with ZIP boron nitride spray. ZIP boron nitride spray is really the only product that I have found that works at casting temperatures, at aperture pour temperatures. The clay-based glass separators I've used did not work. They stuck to the glass really badly and sometimes fell apart and stuck to the mold. So the boron nitride will work really well, but you need to make sure that you know what your kiln's doing. The firing schedule for this is basically going 350 degrees an hour up to 1630, 1640. I would recommend the first time you do this to take your kiln, try it at 1600, try it at 1610, try it at 1620, because what's going to happen is If you go too hot accidentally, the glass separator is not going to work. The mold will be fine, but the glass separator will fall apart and the glass will stick to your mold. And that's not a good thing. And so this is an easy project to do if you just be a little bit patient and work with your kiln. I find that most kilns run a little bit hot, and the hotter you go in a firing schedule, the bigger the differential. And so it's very easy to screw up this project just by plugging in 1640 in your kiln, when in real life your kiln might be going to 1680.
Stephanie?
And so, yeah.
What size is the flower pot?
This flower pot, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I could probably tell you how tall it is. It's 5 inches tall. And so they have other ones that are maybe a little bit more shallow. You can see the glass just went up to there. And so this is a bigger flower pot than I actually needed. I probably only filled up the bottom, I don't know, 10% of this mold with glass. And so you could use a smaller flower pot if you're worried about the height. And so we did have that question in the setup, how tall is your kiln? This one with this was 7 inches tall. With the flower pot, I suspect it's maybe 7.5, 8 inches tall. And so you can use smaller posts. You can use a smaller pot if your kiln is short. Did that answer the question?
I think so. I'll let you know if it didn't.
Well, they can always ask again if they have any questions. So we do also sell something we call a scrap master. That this type of thing, we sell this too. It's a self-supported pot melt. And so you could use that also. Okay, so we've made our clear cap. I always like to think it looks like a contact lens. I'm going to put that inside my mold. But the first thing I need to do is make the koi that are going to be in here. And so I want to make the koi to be very thin because I don't need thick castings. I think they look more natural thin in this process. And so I'm going to use a frit sifter, powdered frit, and then fine frit to make my koi. I've already added some glass to these so that you can see the process. This is powdered black frit, and you will want to use a mask when you're using powdered frit. This happens to everything that we're using in this webinar happens to be COE 96, but it sure doesn't have to be. You can do this process with COE 90 also. So I'm just going to vibrate this little frit sifter. This is called a line and dot sifter. And we love this thing. We fight over it. Maybe I'll get two someday.
And the molds were treated with SIP before.
Yep.
All of them.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. And so I would go on, continue to fill the eyes, the mouth, the fins, the center fin, the tail, and then I'm going to add different koi colors. I added to this one, I put some flame red, some marigold, and some yellow opal. And then I'm going to fill it, not fill it full, but I'm going to put F2 persimmon over that and fill it with about 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more than 1/4 inch of frit. That is fine frit. And I'm going to fire that to basically a tack fire. You've got a firing schedule, but in your material list, but if you have a tack fire that you know works in your kiln, by all means, use that one. In mine, I think I went to 1410 and then annealed. And so I'm not too worried about a bubble squeeze on this because it's opaque. I wouldn't know if there were bubbles between the frit layers anyway. So I've added my frit to the back of the koi. Then I'm going to fire that to a tack fire. And so you can see that this is different than a lot of frit casting would be. First of all, I don't care about a fill weight. All I care about is that I've got about 1/4 inch of frit in there. And so I'm going to fire that to my tack fire. And then I'm going to have these little thin koi. And so you can use, I've never made two koi that were alike. These I've used, this one I used the persimmon. This one I used white, obviously, and this one I used orange opal. So we're going to start building this koi pond. We put the clear in the clear lid in our mold, our dam mold or dome mold. And then I'm going to decide which koi I want to be down first. The koi I made the other night, one of the koi is very shy. He's hiding underneath the lily pads. So I'll try not to do that tonight. And so I think I'm going to put this brightly colored orange guy on top, and he's got a curve. And so you need to remember, guys, down is up. And so we're going to be building this project backwards. I'm going to go ahead and put my koi down, and then I want to put some frit here where the clear glass and the dome meet. And the reason I'm doing that is I want that not to be a real inorganic straight line. And so if I'll have to show you one that I didn't do that with. You will get a real straight line, and we don't want that. So we're just going to put some clear glass down where to kind of break up that perfect straight line where that dome is. And now I'm going to use nipped up clear and fill this top layer around the koi. And this is because I want more clarity on this top layer. I'm going to use more frit as I go because bubbles underneath the top layer kind of look cool. It looks natural, like a koi pond with bubbles. But I want people to be able to see this top koi as clearly as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of nipping some glass up, filling in the nooks and crannies a little bit. And it's the same theory where I'm going to be building dimension and clarity. It just adds a lot of interest to this piece. Some of this glass that I'm nipping up is double thick clear. I just happen to have a lot of double thick clear scrap, and it works great because it's 2 layers of glass that have no bubbles between. So
fine, medium, or coarse frit?
That you saw me put in was coarse, but that's new coarse. So I have noticed that Oceanside's coarse frit is kind of more along the lines grain-wise as Spectrum's old medium frit. And so you could use either one around the outside, but if it was really big, I don't know that it's going to solve the problem of just kind of letting that the line on the edge kind of blur. So I've put down a layer of glass basically around my top koi. I do get kind of attached to these guys. It's funny. It's not a perfect layer. I've kind of snugged around the koi. Have pretty much a solid layer all the way around. Now I'm going to put a couple pieces of green that I have used my mosaic nipper to cut into kind of a little bit of a lily pad shape. And I'm going to put it so that you'll be able to see the next koi going down is going to maybe be covered by a little bit of that. I'm going to put a little glass here. So when you put your koi in, You do not want to build it so that they're naturally going to bend. So if I put a big bunch of glass here and put this koi on top like this, he's going to bend in the middle. And so that would look a little strange. And so I'm trying to put him in an area where he's flat. Flat-ish. And so now I've put him in there. Now I'm going to add a layer of glass around him and on top of this guy. Again, what this is doing is it's creating the dimension between the koi. So it really does look like one is swimming above the other or below the other. And I can begin to start using a little bit more frit also, because I'm not so bothered by bubbles going down in the pond. I think most ponds probably have bubbles, unless something's terribly wrong. Koi are just beautiful. They are beautiful fish. I have done some koi oil paintings that were a lot of fun, because you can just use some of the colors that you probably haven't used on a lot of things. I'm going to go ahead and use, and this is the coarse clear. Just doing that to kind of fill in some of those small places. Now I'm going to put in a little bit more pond life, more, maybe a lily pad under this guy. Random organic bits floating in the water. And then I'm going to put a little bit more down. I want a little bit more dimension here for this third koi, so I'm going to add a little bit more glass. This guy, I think I'll put him so that he is, we'll see him over here. Oh, maybe we'll put him over here. Yeah, that's where he'll be.
How thick is the first layer?
That cap that I made, the aperture pour one, you mean? It is about 3/4 of an inch thick. Weighed between 280 and 300 grams. Okay. Hopefully we'll see his face. Okay, now we're just going to use some frit. One reason I like these pieces of glass is I have quite a bit of clear scrap, and so it's more economical.
Your microphone is really picking up that glass.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is it really loud?
For me it is, but I'm sure it's fine for everyone else.
I'll try and be less rambunctious. I'll try. I can't make any promises because I am rambunctious.
I know, you shouldn't change.
Okay, so I've put my koi in. Now I'm going to add some more lily pads and such. I like for the bottom of the koi pond to be pretty opaque. So that's quite a bit of, and then I'm going to put a little bit of medium amber for it. And if you want to, you could put some moss green frit here. Also looks kind of cool. Just depends on how clear you like your koi pond to look. This is a cool glass too. I could have added some more of this stuff that's clear with some green streaks in it. It seems like a natural for a koi pond.
Stephanie, are koi your favorite fish?
I think so. I mean, I can't think of a fish that would, I mean, I don't know if some of you know my Facebook profile picture right now. I happen to be kissing a bass. Oh, true story. I think the koi are probably the most interesting fish. So yeah, I think so.
That was my question.
That was what?
That was just my question.
Oh, your question. Okay. Okay, so I've got this mold pretty filled, and I've added some pond life stuff. If I had some Vitrograph stringer, it would be handy to kind of throw some of that in here and there. Actually, in this one, there's a couple pieces of Vitrograph stringer you might see. And then, oh, I know what I forgot to do, Kelly. I forgot to throw in the confetti. So confetti isn't something everybody has handy, but it makes really cool looking kind of organic plant matter. And so if you have it handy, go ahead and throw some of that in the upper layers here and there of this koi pond.
Stephanie, Cindy has kissed a seal.
Ha! Somehow that seems a little bit more, I don't know, ladylike than kissing a bass. I don't know. I didn't actually kiss the bass. My lips are hovered above it, I think. Okay, so now I'm going to take this project. I'm going to fire it, basically using that same firing schedule that I did the heart, which is a nice, long, slow, full fuse that includes a long, long bubble squeeze. That's that area where I'm holding at 1150 for quite a while, and then I go to 1300 and hold for quite a while. What that is that's a bubble squeeze, and it's kind of what I like to call a shotgun bubble squeeze because every kiln's a little different. And so if you start low and then creep very slowly up, you're going to be hitting a bubble squeeze. And so that's what that firing schedule does for you. I'll put this in the kiln and I'll fire it, and then it will come out of the kiln and look kind of matte like this. This is the one we did Tuesday. And so you can see he's kind of shy here. He's hiding. No, it's this guy. He's hiding a little bit. But I'm going to put this in the kiln and I'm going to use that fire polish schedule. You know what would be kind of cool? I might try that sometime, is I could tack fire a dragonfly on here. That might look cool because we could tack fire something onto this while we fire polish. But we're going to put it in the kiln, fire polish it, and it'll come out glossy.
How long did the schedule take to fire?
The full fuse? Oh, I imagine it was probably an 8-hour firing process. I'm sad to say I don't know that I even looked at the time that it ran. I should have, because it doesn't bother me. Kiln time, to me, if it takes a couple more hours to get a better project, it takes a couple more hours to get a better project, because it's not costing you that much energy or money, and your result might be better. And so I did not know how long that was, to be honest. But I suspect it'd be 8 to 10 hours, especially with the long anneal, because that counts. But your kiln holding at an annealing temperature, I don't think is really burning that much energy. So any other questions on that one, Kelly?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, so we've built the heart flower bouquet. Now we're going to explore metal inclusions, gold inclusions. Sorry, guys. Ooh, let me pick it up. So this is going to be our next project. And the first thing we have to do to create this is we're going to explore the gold inclusions that you see in here. And this all started, you can also put gold inclusions in jewelry. And what you're doing is you're going to use a product that I've listed. This is my new favorite gold. There's a lot of different gold out in the market, but this one works really well. It's a Duncan product, and this one is the premium gold. They make two. They make just a standard bright gold, and then this one is premium gold. It has a little bit more gold content in it. And I like that because it just comes out way brighter, more intense than the others. And so some of you are familiar with this product and some aren't. It's actually called an overglaze. And you just put it on. If you're from the ceramic world at all, it's very common in the ceramic world. You see those coffee cups or plates that have a gold rim. This is what is used to create the gold rim on ceramics. It's gold that's placed on the glaze, which glaze is just glass. So it makes sense that it would work on glass. And so go ahead.
Have you got any plans for making a small dome?
An even smaller one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do. Janet has been wanting one of those. We could make one we have one that's smaller than this that we'll be using later.
And where do you get that gold?
I would go to my glass distributor first and ask them if they have a liquid fired gold. And then if they do, chances are it might be this brand. But if not, there's other good brands out there. You just might ask them about the gold content. I can't remember what the gold content on this one is. I think it said 11, but I don't know exactly what that means. Anyway, if you can't find it at your gold distributor, at your glass distributor, feels like gold sometimes, doesn't it? You can contact a ceramic distributor. And so what I would do is I would look for my closest ceramic distributor, go to Duncan and look for the closest Duncan distributor. Probably doesn't have to be the closest if they're going to send it to you, but you might have one in your town. I buy this from Evans Ceramics here in Wichita. They are a Duncan distributor. Okay, so the way this works is it's actually a solvent that has real gold in it. And so you'll put it, this is what I use to apply gold with. It's, I think they call it maybe a gold pin. It's kind of a misnomer. To me, it's a stylus. So I put a dot of that gold in this barrel, and it's going to feed through the tip here. A little bit comes out, and it goes a long, long ways. And so, for example, you're going to see red on my finger, but it's not blood. It's the color of the gold. I'm going to put my piece of glass over the zodiac sign that I want. And I'm going to, once you touch the, I was going to go ahead and make one, but once you touch the end of that to the glass, it sucks the gold out. And so very cleanly, don't know that you can, there you go. I'm making the beginning of a Pisces. just from scratch. It's only one. It's going to be one fish. But you can see that you can do just about anything with this. You can get a lot of detail in there. And so that's how I did my symbols. And that's what you can also do, is you can just use it and cover the glass. You can make kind of cool, like this is some hearts I made. I'll try and make it so that the light's not reflecting on here and so you can see better. The other day, when I did the Sagittarius ones, I went ahead and wrote love, it's backwards here, on red glass. And I can put that in a casting.
It's not backwards.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Mm-mm.
And so this one I did, I just did some scribbles on a sheet of clear glass. And what my plan is on this one is to take a mosaic nipper and just nip little pieces of it up and put it in a frit cast mold to create something of this sort, which this is a cabochon that I made using our Holy Heart mold. And I put one of the pieces of gold I put frit down in the mold first, and then I put the clear glass with the gold on it. On one side, I put it gold side down. On the other side, I put it gold side up, and it just creates a little bit of dimension. You can see this gold is further back from the eye than this one is. And so I put that in with the frit and just fired it to a regular fuse. You do want to make sure that the gold is covered with glass. And so if I had this side up with the gold on the top, two things can happen. One, it's possible that it could burn off, but two, it's going to get real dull looking because gold at a full fuse starts to lose its sheen, but not while it's in between the two glass layers. And so it's kind of cool. It's a cool little gimmick to be able to actually put gold in the jewelry that you make customers. It's actually, in some ways, less expensive than dichroic if you use it correctly. And so, you can also do this kind of fun thing. So my whole thing started with gold when I wanted to make gold frit. And so at first I tried actually applying it to frit and firing it, and it worked to a certain extent. But then I decided to coat a piece of glass with the fired gold. And then while it was still warm, I threw it in water and it crazes. You see that? And so what's kind of cool is I can use it like this and it leaves a crazed texture, which we'll show you later here in the last project we do. Or it also tempers the glass. And so you can make the frit, you can break it more easily without creating sharp pieces. Of course, that one's not going to do it, is it? And so you can make frit just by breaking up the tempered glass. And it's not going to be sharp. And I can stick that in with frit and have a good time with that. And so the basics of this is you use the liquid fired gold, apply it to glass. Doesn't have to be clear glass, can be colorful glass. As a matter of fact, I have one on here just for grins. I thought I'd try and apply it to dichroic. I don't know that it's anything special. It probably gilding the lily there a little bit. But what my favorite thing to do with it is to just make random patterns and then use those random patterns in with your cabochons over glass, over opaque glass. And it just adds some class and dimension to the cabochons. So you can use gold on glass. I could have fired this cabochon, then used this tool and added some gold to the top of it. That's something you can do. You just have to fire it to a slump temperature. But what I like about using gold as an inclusion is, one, I've not seen it very much. Two, it just adds some kind of richness and mystique. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make our symbols to use in this horoscope. You should have a piece of paper in your material list that gives you the different symbols and I'm trying to think of what that's called. Signs, horoscope signs and symbols. that you can use. Just what you're going to do is you're going to trace it on your glass, and then you're going to throw it in the kiln. You can throw it in a kiln that's slumping glass already, and it will mature, or you can run it by itself. I've got a little Vitrograph kiln out there that is got a real small chamber, and I can fire it very quickly. It's not much glass, and so I'm not too terribly worried about it annealing. So I just fire it pretty quickly up to 1250 degrees and hold for 10 minutes, and then let it drop down. If I'm not going to pull it out warm, and I don't pull it out at 1400 degrees, I let it get down to, say, 1,000 degrees if I'm going to try that tempering thing. I don't want to take it out too hot and throw it in water. And so anyway, but if you don't want to do that, you just let the kiln anneal. And when you open up the kiln, you will see that the solvent, the red solvent's burned away and just left a layer of gold, actual gold, on the glass. And so it's kind of nifty. It's a lot of fun. The bad side, the thing about it, when you put the drop of gold in your stylus, you need to have things around to help, because you don't want to waste the gold. And so what I'll do is I will have projects around that I will add gold accents to the top of if I still have some gold left in my stylus. You'll want to clean this out very quickly and thoroughly, because once this sucker gets clogged, it's very difficult to unclog.
We have a question.
And, yeah.
At 1220, the gold will not fade.
No. Actually, I think we took it up to 1250. I have done it before. Like I will fire gold in my kiln when I do a regular slump quite often. Like if I'm going to put a gold rim on a bowl, I'll put that gold on the rim and then just slump it, and it matures in that slump firing. This is not blood. So I'm not bleeding, but I do have some red on my hand.
Does the piece with the gold still need to be put under the glass?
It doesn't have to be. I don't know what the point is of doing it that way if you're going to put it on top of the glass, because you can always just apply the gold to the glass. You know, if I wanted to have the gold on the surface, I could have just put the gold on this and then fired this to a slump.
Can you repeat the full slump schedule?
Okay. Basically, all I did was, let me see if I've got it here. I'm sorry, I'm looking for it on my paperwork. Okay, there it is. Basically, I just say fire the glass to 1250 degrees. And so if I were just doing little pieces of glass like this in my little kiln, I go up, say, 800 degrees an hour to 1250 degrees. You know, that's about as fast as most kilns will climb. And then hold for 10 minutes. The reason that is this is not a lot of glass body, and so you don't have to worry about a thermal shock or anything. And all you're doing is burning off that solvent. And so then I'll hold it 10 minutes, and then I typically will anneal, whether I need to or not. And so I hope I answered that question. So here I want to show you the difference between that gold. This is the symbol for Scorpio, and I put it with the well, here, I'm going to build this and I'll show you the difference as we go. But it's kind of cool how the scorpion has dimension. And I'll show you why that is. This is more kind of solid. And so as we build this next project, we will discover that. So we've made our gold symbols and we've made our clear cap for our astrological dome. So on my cap, what I'm going to do is I'm going to...
Steph, we have a question. Arlene is confused. She thought you mentioned that the piece with the gold needed to be put under the glass. Please clarify.
I think that you will be happier if the gold is not facing the surface. Two things can happen. It's possible that the gold will burn off. And I say that it's possible just because I've not had it happen very often, but I have had it happen. And two, the gold will turn matte. it won't keep a gloss to it if it's not capped with glass. And so does that make sense? And so don't put, you're better off to put the glass over it. If you have the little piece of glass like this with gold on one side and clear on the other, you can put it so the clear side is up. That's capping it. Does that make sense? So clear side up on your piece is going to cap the gold.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay, if you put it gold side up, the gold's going to be exposed and it'll turn matte, and some of it might burn away depending on how hot and the quality of your gold. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our clear cap and we're going to, this is my solution for this. I'm going to put this dome over my astrological sign that I'm interested in recreating, and I'm going to try and think of where I want to put the symbols and position the constellation under the dome where I want it. Then I'm going to look down through the glass and I'm going to make the marks for my constellation and my stars and continue on doing that. And then after I have those marks created, which I'm not, my head isn't directly over it, guys, because I don't want to put my head in the camera, but you will want to be directly over it and looking down through it. So now I've got this Leo constellation drawn on the glass, on the dome side of the glass. Now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put dichroic pieces everywhere there's a circle, meaning it's a star. And then I'm going to put a white stringer everywhere that there is a line. And you're going to use super glue and glue them into place. Some of the constellations are easier than the others. I'm getting ready to show you one that I made for my sister. My first sister, not my first sister, the first one I made was for my sister who's a Cancer. And that symbol is easy, is why I picked it. And Kelly is an Aries. Aries is a pretty simple, straightforward constellation too. Sagittarius that I made for my sister Kim is pretty complicated, but I got it done. But I'm not going to make you guys watch that. So what I would do is I would put my stringers down where the line is, put a little dot of super glue, hold it in place, and then I would put my little nipped piece of dichroic on the circle and glue it into place and continue to go until this entire pattern is filled out. And then you will wash off the Sharpie marks from the back side of the glass, and then you will glue your symbols into place. And so this is the Sagittarius constellation. And then there is the Sagittarius symbol and the Sagittarius sign. Symbol and sign. Okay, there we go. And so I think you can see it. Now for the dichroic I usually pick rainbow coated clear, and that way I can go through and kind of pick the colors I like. I've got one here that I accidentally ended up with blue on every star. It looks okay, but I think I probably, going backwards, I probably would have changed that a little bit. So I've put my constellation and symbols on this, and the reason I super glue them in place is we're going to be putting frit on top, and it's going to move if it's not already in place. So let's see. Ooh, that's okay. That's better. I'm wondering if the lighting is too reflective here. Can you see it okay, Kelly? We're not going to be working with a lot of detail anyway.
Better when your hand was blocking the light.
Okay, let me turn something off here. A little bit better? Maybe?
Nothing has happened. Nothing has happened yet.
Okay, so I'm going to go forward because I think it'll fix itself once I start putting more glass in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that frit where the glass meets the mold, and I'll show you what happens. I had two mistakes. The first time I did this project, one, I had a 4-pound bottle of white on my work table, and I thought it was clear. And so I put some white down instead of clear. And so this will show you what will happen if you don't put some glass down to kind of break up that clean line where the dome is meeting there. You're going to get a real unnatural line around this way. And so that's why we put the frit there. Also, make sure that you don't think white is clear and vice versa. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to break up that line. Another thing that's kind of fun with this is that contact lens thing that's down in the bottom of the mold fits at any angle. So if I wanted to create that constellation at a little bit more of an angle this way, I can push it up that way and build it that way. It just adds a little bit of visual interest. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that a little bit. And now I'm going to begin to fill the mold. This is going to be filled with frit. I'm going to put dark colors towards the outside, and this is navy. I like cobalt blue transparent a lot also. Navy works nicely. But all the colors I'm putting in are going to be transparent, and this is medium grain that I'm using. It's Ouroboros medium grain, and so the Oceanside is a little bit different, but it'll work also. So I'm just going to create some dark there. Then I'm going to take some sky blue and just fill in a little bit here and there. Some blue topaz, why not? I did try and create a Milky Way. I didn't have much success with it. I wasn't real happy with it. And so one of you out there can probably do it, and I'm going to be very jealous.
Stephanie, we seem to be having some connection issues.
Okay.
People are saying video and sound just stopped, popping in and out, won't reconnect, lost you.
Okay.
Lost it too. Seems like everybody has.
Everybody's gone? Okay. Yeah. Do you want to start over? I mean, do you want to open a new room?
I'm not sure. Our signal says we're on. So I'm confused. Someone says I just keep hitting reconnect. Oh, Nancy said she's back.
Somebody's back.
It comes back. Katie's still here.
Okay, so maybe it's some people were back and some weren't. Nothing blank. It's okay now. Okay, well, we'll wait just a minute and make sure people that need to click back and forth do. Maybe I'll wait. So this is one that we made the other night. I'll go ahead and show you. I used more light colored frit behind this one. I think I like it the best. Once it's fire polished, I think this one's going to be pretty striking. This is my sister who's the Cancer.
Okay. Someone said, Pat wrote, I had to start over. Sounds and looks good right now. Can you... Okay, Christine, Kendi, there definitely will be a replay. Stephanie, I've got a few things here. Can you repeat the frit placement?
Sure.
Because I think it stopped at the navy. So we might need to just go over that again.
Okay, guys. And this is, I'm going to tell you this, that I've never done this the same twice, too. I have 4 of these in here, and they're all a little different. But the basics is I'm going to add my darker colors towards the outside, because if you add too dark in the middle, you're not going to be happy with the light transfer from underneath. And so I put navy on the outside here. Cobalt blue works well too. Probably steel blue would also. But you're going to want a transparent dark blue towards the outside. And then I put some sky blue, some Caribbean blue, a little bit of pale purple. And now I'm going to put some pale blue. I really kind of like the way this one turned out light in the center. And so I'm going to try and create it to be even lighter with this one. So I just put a pile of clear blue there. Now I'm going to add more navy towards the outside. Irid works nicely too. If you have some clear irid or pale blue irid frit, it does cool things. It looks kind of galactical in there. You can put a little bit of dichro. If you do it, I would do it further back because you don't want it to compete with your stars in your constellation. And now I'm just adding some, what's this? Sky blue. Do they think of it's the galaxy, the sky? No, I think maybe the sky is between the atmosphere of the Earth, right? I'm just putting a little clear. I probably should have put a little bit more clear down first, now that I think about it, but I don't know that's going to matter that much. So here's some steel blue. And this is steel blue, looks like mosaic size. Oh, blue topaz is what that was, guys, not Caribbean blue. I'm sorry.
Is this all transparent glass?
Yep.
Arlen says, thank you, Kelly, but missed the middle part. Now Stephanie is adding the steel blue.
Okay, I'll recap here. Basically what I did was I put clear around the dome top, and then I added navy blue around the outside area. Then I put sky blue, pale purple, blue topaz, and pale blue random. And I'm telling you it's random because honestly, I have no logic to how I'm adding it. I'm just kind of adding it to just kind of create different color areas. And so
also don't worry everyone, because the replay won't have cut out, and so you'll be able to watch this about an hour after.
It was recording. We know that.
Also, Stephanie, it's 8:15.
Okay. We just have one more project. I'm putting a little bit of dark across here because I don't want it to be super pale looking. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that.
Stephanie, all this frit is coarse.
No, the only one that's coarse is this last one I'm adding, which is the steel blue. It doesn't really matter. The only reason it matters is I don't like the look of, I don't want to see the grains. You know what I'm saying? I don't like, I don't want it to look like, you know, this piece is floating in the sky, this kind of inorganic triangle. And so that's the only reason it matters is I would probably just use all medium, but I had that steel blue course, and I thought I'd go ahead and use it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this to that full fuse that, just for grins, let's throw a little bit more. Okay, let me show you what happens. So this is one that we made Tuesday, and I did use quite a bit. Let me see if I can show you. See, you can see there's some areas where it's pretty light in there. And I kind
really
of
looks like the galaxy.
Yeah. And so some of the others I've done, I used way more dark behind, way more. This will be fire polished, guys, and you'll be able to see it probably Tuesday with this one. It might be Wednesday. I'm going to post all the projects after they're fire polished so you can see. But once this is fire polished, I think that you will agree that the lighter color behind kind of adds a little bit more. You get more light transfer through it. And so here's one that I did that is my son's horoscope, the Virgo. It's the first one we did before I figured out to put the gold symbols in it. And it's a bit dark. It's pretty. But if you were here in real life, you'd see there's depth to it. But there's more depth with the lighter color in the center. Okay, so I'm going to fire this project using that same firing schedule. Then when it comes out, it will be matte looking like this one. I'll put it on a kiln shelf and I'll fire it using that fire polish dash tack fire firing schedule, and it will gloss it. I do want to re-emphasize that you guys are going to want to sit by your kiln and see what's happening to the glass. The first time you do that project, you fire polish a thick piece of glass in your kiln, because the first time I did it, I didn't watch it really well, and the glass did what I call a ploop, and it goes from whatever 8 layers of glass that is, trying to get to be 2 layers of glass. That's what glass will do in its natural state. If you hold it at a temperature where it can long enough, it will spread, of course, right? And so you're going to want to watch your kiln. I happen to be one that I go ahead and peek in the peephole and look for a sheen. Then I will go ahead and I look in the kiln. And with experience, especially, you're going to know when the glass is shiny. You want to stop it right when it's shiny before it ploops. And so for me in my kiln, I've got one kiln that's 1310, hold for maybe 10 minutes. And I ramp slow going up. And the reason for that is I didn't ramp slow going up once. And with this much glass, if you ramp too quickly, it will crack. Also, you want to give it a day. So I fired this project, and then I'm not going to fire polish it until the day after I fired it. It might just be superstition on my part, but I have had 2 annealing problems. Well, one was thermal shock and one was annealing. And that was the one that I fired the same day I took it out of the kiln. I think that the glass was still kind of getting its act together when I threw it back in the kiln. And so I think that's why that cracked. And then I had another one crack because, and I should have known better, I put a piece of glass this big in my Vitrograph kiln that can climb. That thing can get to 2,000 degrees in 45 minutes. I didn't go that hot, but it went that fast. And so I opened up the kiln and it was 2 pieces of very thick glass. And so you need
Question.
to. Yep.
First, I want to say hi to Karen, who's here from New Zealand.
Oh, hey.
And could any of the mushroom dome molds be used to make the clear for this project?
Yes. And somebody's very observant. The first time I did this project, that's what I used. And so you just have to be careful. The mushroom dome has a rim on it. And so if you make the glass too big, it will get stuck in the inside. This was the first project that I did. This was my obsession for Christmas, was a snow globe. And so that's what started this whole obsession with fire polishing and doing thick glass. And this is one, I cracked one of these because I ramped it too fast. But you can do that. This one, I didn't do that clear cap because I like the bubbles. And so the bubbles kind of looked like snow in a snow globe to me. And so I didn't use a clear cap for this one at all. This is all frit and frit castings. And so just to show you that, here in a bit, we'll show different samples that we have too. We're running better time tonight, aren't we, Kelly? And so this shows you that project that we just did with all frit, no clear cap. This is one of the smaller domes we have. And so it's effective. It's just more bubbles. And that stringer I used, I actually put gold on stringer and used the stringer as part of the constellation. And so that's another option you can do. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to build the piece that I call the kitchen sink. And it's called that because I threw everything I had at it, kind of. Okay, so I had the small dome, which is this one, and I was trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. And I thought, well, why don't I treat it like a Patty Gray mold and just fill it with, strips? And then I thought, well, why don't I use the reactions? Oh, and then I thought, well, why don't I throw some of the gold in there and then a little bit of dichro? And then why don't I texture it afterwards? And so that is why this one's called the kitchen sink, is because I had a lot of fun with it. And so I'm going to treat my mold with the boron nitride spray, and then I'm going to take pieces, strips of clear and strips of the colors that I've got here are vanilla cream, turquoise blue, which reacts with vanilla cream. And then I have got some silver leaf. I'm going to, sorry guys. So some of you watched the slurry webinar, and we did some cool things with silver leaf in that one. What I did on this one is I took some strips of red glass and some glue, and I glued some silver leaf to the red glass. What happens, guys, is silver reacts and does something really cool to red glass. It kind of, it oxidizes and creates a really cool kind of raku looking edge to it. And so I really like that look. I think it just adds some depth and interest. Here's one too. This is flame red, reacts very strongly. And so I just put a little bit of glue on my glass, and you can use super glue, you can use any kind of fusing glue, or you can use a craft spray glue and spray it on the glass. Then you touch the glass to the silver leaf and it sticks to the glass. I've stuck it to the vanilla cream too. The silver does cool things to vanilla cream, and it does cool things to the turquoise blue also. And so on this particular one, I glued these pieces together with super glue because I wanted to do something a little bit different tonight than just putting strips. Here's one we did Tuesday, and I was kind of in a hurry, and I just really kind of put the glass in as strips. It's cool, but I glued some together in advance today. And so what I did is I just took some of the Ming green and glued it to the vanilla cream, which will react, and glued that to the turquoise blue, which will react. And then the red has some silver, which will react. Just does some kind of fun things. I also I have a lot of double thick clear, and it works great in this project because most of what you see is actually clear glass, and that's what creates the interest, is that it's not so muddled. You're seeing each piece of glass. And so I super glued these pieces of glass together because I wanted them to sit up in the mold like this. You guys can't really see, but I'm putting it just kind of upright like this because I think that'll be interesting. And so then I'm going to put these pieces that I super glued together. I think I'll lean them this direction. And then I'm going to start filling that mold with pieces of double thick clear and other pieces of sheet glass and some gold and a little bit of Dichro. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of frit down in the base. I'll tell you why, is that I have noticed that the edge of the glass, sometimes you can see it once it's fused. And so a little bit of frit in the bottom will help kind of diminish that. Then I'm going to take double thick clear and start laying it here and there. Put a little piece of gold in there. Now the stuff like your gold, you're going to want to put in an area where it'll be seen. So if I put it between these opaque layers, obviously you're not going to see it. And so I'm going to stick this guy. And this was one of the ones that I put in the water while it was still hot. And so it will have kind of a neat textural look to it. I'm going to put a little clear in front of it. You do not have to pack this mold tight. As a matter of fact, it's kind of cool to let the glass have some space and let it bend. It makes it look a little bit more like hot glass. I'm going to put a little bit more gold in there. Oh, I know, too. I fused some pieces because the whole time I've been doing this project, I thought it would be kind of neat if I pre-fused like some checkerboard or something and then nipped it up and stuck it in there. It would kind of confuse people. How did that stay together? Well, I'm going to, so this is a piece of clear that I put some black irid and then some ivory with a black irid square on it. I'm just going to stick that in there. I want to put it someplace where it's not hiding anything that I want to see. Put it that direction. Well, let's put that piece of Dichro in there that I put the gold on it too. We'll put that over here. And I'm going to face that with the clear side out just in case it comes to the surface. I don't know. I fired these. I put some glass in a dam mold at the same time I was doing those aperture pores, and it looks like eyeballs. I think I'll leave them out. But just to show you what my point is, you're just going to have fun and play with reaction, play with your gold, and then the silver reaction also. Vitrograph stringers make a cool addition to this project. Here's some gold that has the different kind of geometric shapes on it. Let's stick that in there. Let's put this one over here so it's going to not be hidden by a opaque piece of glass.
How about Marini or Millefiore? I don't know.
Millefiore, yes, that would be awesome. As a matter of fact, for grins, while I was fusing something, I had some cane laying around and I fused them to make them a little bit flat so that you could see the pattern a little bit more. I think I'm going to stick those in there. Thanks for reminding me. This one's going to be fun to watch. Going to be fun to see what comes out.
Different.
Huh?
The colors are going to be a bit all over the place.
Yep. And this is sticking up out of the mold, and I'm going to let it stay that way. And then it'll fall forward as it fuses.
It would be cool if you did something with the eyeballs in a different one, but like have them peeping out of something or something.
Yeah, that would be fun. Or a frit casting would have been kind of fun in it too. You just have to think about what frit casting you'd want in there. Okay. Here are some little dichroic dots. I cut quarter-inch squares of dichro on black and just fired them in the kiln. I was full fusing. And so I thought that would be kind of interesting to have some dichroic dots here and there.
Christine, I'm actually sharing a file right now here that you can download. And it's the projects from tonight's tutorial with the firing schedules and everything. And I will be sending an email out after, and that will also have the projects in there to download. So to answer your question, yes.
So on this, guys, there isn't a fill weight. And also I could stop now because there's certainly more than 2 layers of glass in here. But I'm going to keep going because I want it to be kind of a thick paperweight. So I'm just going to add glass and then just keep adding this and that for grins. Maybe we need another piece of this. I think we do. Over here. There. Okay. So I just keep going. And if you have really cool colors that are your favorite or match your decor, by all means, venture off and use those. I like to go a little crazy sometimes. It's going to be interesting to see what those dichroic dots do. They're probably all going to be at the bottom of the mold because they're round and they probably just fell right to, which the bottom of the mold is what, Kelly? What's the bottom of the mold in this project?
The top.
Yay, yes. She was listening. I put some powder just randomly on a tile on a piece of thin fire and fired it to a full fuse to create this shape, which would have been kind of cool had I put that in the center too. I don't think anybody would see it at this point. Oh, what the heck? Let's just stick it in there, shall we?
It looks like a bicycle.
Well, it did before I broke it. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to take this project, I'm going to fire it using that full fuse, and the glass is going to melt. Some are going to bend because there are some gaps, which I like. I also like the look of stringer in there. If you throw some stringer in, it will bend and go in the cracks. And I'm going to fire that to a full fuse using that same schedule. And then it's going to come out of the kiln, be kind of frosty. And you can leave it like this if you want. I actually kind of liked one of these better before I fire polished it. But now that you're going to fire polish it, you've got the opportunity to actually do something really cool. You can fire polish it on a texture mold. And what that'll do, to me, it adds like a unifying pattern. And so this is the GeoGrid GX07, I believe, that I fired this piece of glass on, and it textured the bottom of the paperweight and kind of, to me, brings all of this together with unifying pattern. This one I textured on the Wave, which I can't remember what mold number that is, and it had the same effect to me. Let's see. And so you can see there's some of the gold right there. There's the reaction between the red and the silver. Some reaction between the vanilla cream and the copper bearing glass. Little piece of dichro here and there. And then I put the black stringer on the bottom of this, and I thought that worked nicely. So we're going to fire polish those and texture the bottoms if you want. If you don't want, you don't have to. You don't have to fire polish it. You can leave it matte if you would like. Sometimes I like matte finish because I look at glass a lot and it's usually shiny. This is the one we did Tuesday, and there's a little piece of the crackled gold. I don't know how well you can see the crackle here, but it's just adds a little something. And then I threw some vanilla cream frit in this one, and that's what you see here that fell all the way to the bottom. I'm going to be real interested to see the one that we just created, to see if those little dichroic dots just fell all the way to the bottom or what. So now I'm going to go ahead and show some of the other samples, Kelly.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, I forgot to talk about the gold. Okay, so on the Scorpion, this is the piece of glass that I drew the Scorpion on with gold and fired it, and then I put it in this mold with the gold facing the frit. This was put in with the gold facing that clear cap. And so this is a sheet of glass with gold painted on it, facing another sheet of glass. And so it's kind of sandwiched between two nice flat layers. And so you can keep a nice smooth finish if that's what you want, or you can put it. So I put this one in so that the gold was facing the frit. So I put it with the glass down on that clear cap. So I put it glass down on the clear cap, gold up, and then covered it with frit. And that frit actually adds some kind of texture to that gold, which I think is kind of cool. But it's good to know that you may want it this way, you may want it that way, and you have control of it depending on which way you flip that. This was one that I did, that same. I used the smaller dome, and I did that gold in with frit. It was on a piece of sheet glass in with frit, and to me it adds, that's really sparkly and cool looking to me. So to say that again, I used that smaller dome mold and I put clear frit down. Then I put my piece of glass that had the gold on it, gold side down. The only reason that it would have frit on either side, but that was gold side down, so the symbol would be read correctly. And then I did my constellation and then filled it with blue, dark blue, and light blue frit. You see there's a lot of bubbles in there, but in some cases, the bubbles actually act as stars. Okay. So here's kind of a cool project. Sorry, guys. Here's a cool project. So we're going to be firing our kiln to this aperture pour temperature if we're going to be making those clear caps, right? While you've got your kiln running, you can do cool things by, this was a glass panel that I made several years ago, and I was not happy with it. And it's been in my glass morgue for probably 8 years. I took it out and dropped it on the floor. And then I put it in this dome mold with lots of clear glass as well, and put it in the kiln while that kiln was firing to that aperture pour firing schedule. So it wasn't an aperture pour. The glass is sitting there, but it's firing so hot that you get a lot of clarity. The glass has very few bubbles between the layers, and that is because that firing schedule lets the glass fire down and just melt as one. And then I took it out and fire polished it. So that is something that you can do also. I did that with an Easter egg. I did it with the dome. I've got a heart that I did it with. This was one that it was a slurry piece I had sitting around in the glass morgue. I broke it up into pieces, stuck it in the heart mold, and then fired it in that same kiln load as I was doing the aperture pour. Sorry, I'm trying to center this. There we go. And so it's kind of cool that the slurry worked too. It's kind of cool looking. So I need to fire polish this. If I wanted to, I could fire polish a frit casting on top. Another thing that you can do is, this was an aperture pour I did right into the mold of this heart. And then I fire polished that on the Vintage 2 texture to make it look like cut crystal. This is what I call a ploop. This one I put in, this was an aperture pour I did in that dome mold, that small one. I did mostly clear and then just a few pieces of yellow and green, actually. And Kelly and I weren't real crazy about after it was done, so I thought I don't have anything to lose. I put it so it was this shape. It was this small dome. I put it upside down on a texture, and you can see sideways, it kind of created this kind of cough drop shape. And so it actually, to give you a visualization, had it like this on the texture. And as it got hotter and hotter, it started to fall forward. And so it created the cross texture on the bottom. And it's kind of just more of a learning thing. Now that I know this will do this, I might do that on purpose with some of these. One of the samples that we show is the Easter eggs with the flowers. These are using the same thing that you used in the koi pond texture project. We put frit castings. I bet that was loud. Frit castings. I put a little bit of glass down in the Easter egg mold, and then I put the flowers in the mold facing down. And then I demolded it and fire polished it. And so that's how you can do those projects. This is the same theory. This is a butterfly that I put in the larger Easter egg mold. I put a little bit of.
We've got some people saying they've lost us again.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, Karen is back.
Okay.
Okay, log out and log back in is what I'll tell them.
I wonder if that has something to do with the transition.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. So because you spray the aperture mold first, the glass.
I'm sorry, say that again?
So because, Barbara wants to know, so because you spray the aperture mold first, the glass doesn't leave a skin in the mold?
No, it separates. If it didn't separate, it wouldn't leave a skin. It would stick. The entire glass would stick in there. And so that's why it's really important that you apply your glass separator very well, and you make sure not to fire your kiln too hot, because if that glass does stick, it's sticking for reals. It's not going to just leave a skin. And so this is probably what she's thinking about. This pot melt has got a skin of glass in it. Well, that is because the glass fell out this hole. If this didn't have a hole, it would be a solid piece. Well, it would be a shattered piece of glass stuck to this ceramic because there's no glass separator between this glass and this ceramic.
Arlene would like to know, how did you get the flowers and the butterflies in?
Okay, so the same technique that we used to make the koi pond, I used frit castings. So I made frit castings in advance, and then I used a little bit of frit in the mold, a little bit of clear frit first, and then I put the flower side down in the mold, fired it to a full fuse, and then I demolded it and fire polished it. And so it's the same exact thing that you saw in the koi pond, just different frit castings and different dam molds. And so that's how this was done as well. And this one. And so you can just use your frit castings. I like to put clear down between the frit casting and the mold because the few times I have put the frit castings flat against the mold, it just looked like it was kind of a bug squashed on a windshield or something. I didn't like it. And there's the original Heart of Gold that we showed. And that's that same thing where we used pieces of glass that we had fired gold on in a frit casting mold. This one is pieces of the gold frit, and I put it in I was trying to make it look like the colorful marble jewelry you see with gold in the veins. And so these are little frit pieces, and somebody was asking, do you have to make sure that the gold's up or down? This was against the mold, and obviously some of this gold was touching the mold, and it held in there. It's not glossy because it doesn't have glass over it, but it's kind of cool looking. And then this one is using kind of the same theory. What I did on this one is I put, why is that so hard for me? It's left is right and right is, there we go.
It looks like a magical egg.
Yes, it's a dragon egg, right? And so what I did on this one is I put clear frit down in the cavity, and I cut the dichro the size of the cavity. And then I put black, fine black around the edge because I couldn't cut it exactly the same, to be honest. And then, so sorry. Sorry about that, guys. And so then I fired it to a full fuse, and then I took it out of the mold and I fire polished it. And so that's how that has happened.
Did you say the aperture mold has no zip on it? Barbara wants to know.
Right. This does not. And I'll tell you guys, when I first started using aperture molds like this, I did put zip in here because I wanted to get all the glass out. Well, it got all the glass out, but it pulled zip with it. And so it would leave little pearls of zip, of boron nitride in my casting. And so I stopped doing that. This is kind of a cool tip for those of you that want to use the Scrapmaster type molds or even a flower pot. If you want to season your mold with clear and then you do future castings, you'll get less of the colors in your next casting. So the first glass that goes in is what's going to stay in mostly. And so that's kind of handy. I could now use this mold with the clear coating on it and put some color in it. A little bit of color will stay in here, but not nearly like it does if you don't season it first. Okay. And these were Easter eggs that I used. One of our scrap masters, the Easter egg mold, the hen side mold actually fits under, two of the eggs fit underneath two of the holes in one of the scrap masters. And so I just put glass in there. And this is without a fire polish because I just liked this side real well. This one I fire polished and I put it on the cross texture, being kind of an Easter theme. Then this one was an aperture pour into the heart mold. I used the GM 151 actually fits over this. It's a scrap master that we make, and both holes fit over those two cavities. And so that's how I made these two molds. I did the aperture pores on this one. I turned it over and fire polished it on that texture. On this one, I just liked it like it is, and so I left it. Okay, Kelly, I'm going to come in there, and we can field questions if you want, or we
Okay.
can, let's see.
Okay, everyone. So we're at the end of the webinar. We went over a little bit by, I think, about nearly half an hour. But if you have any questions, any last minute questions before we wrap it up, go ahead and ask them. That was
Hey.
nice. Hi. Nearly broke an egg. Nearly cracked.
I know.
You nearly cracked an egg.
I know. A couple of times I had dropsy tonight. I bet that was loud.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's fine. So Webinar Gem, where we're hosting our webinar tonight, they're actually doing an upgrade at midnight tonight. So I'm not sure if that had something to do with the connection losing, but some people didn't lose connection, some did, which is strange.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what went on there.
This one is one that has gold. See, your camera works pretty good here. The lighting.
You know, yours worked really well when
Did
you
it?
held it up to the
Okay.
camera. I thought it was very clear when you held it up.
Okay.
Okay, you've got a few questions. What do we put to season the flower pot?
Clear. And so do your clear casting in it, and then you'll get less glass. So what I meant was, a lot of times when you do an aperture pour, the thing that you're doing the aperture pour in, that colors that get stuck in there, and they'll be in every casting going forward. And so if you do clear first, then you get less of that color stickage. Does that make sense?
I think it does. Is the Dunkin' Gold the premium?
Yes.
Okay. Can we make clear domes in the dome mold instead of the flower pot?
Okay, so what we did was I used 3 different configurations. I used the flower pot. Oh, so I see what you're saying. So like I made that one paperweight where I put the glass in there. I tried that and it was kind of weird. I just remember that heart that I made that had the ghosty lines in it.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that would work. I put sheet glass in a mold and fired it to that aperture pour temperature. And something weird happened. Between each piece of clear glass, it was just a little bit of a ghosty pattern. And so it did not, you could see the pieces is what I'm saying. And so I'd like to tell you it would work, but it didn't work for me. Okay. Unless maybe if I put clear frit down and then sheet on top of that, maybe it might work.
You could try and then get back to it. Okay, so I'm going to hang on here a little bit longer at work so that I can download this replay, and then I'm going to upload it to YouTube, and it's going to be set as unlisted, which means nobody else will be able to search for it or watch it, only the people with the link, which will be you guys. So please don't share that link with anybody else. And you should get that soon. I would say it will probably take just under an hour. And I'm going to have the PDF tutorials for tonight's webinar in that email also. So it's just handier for you to have if you didn't download it already. And yeah, no zip in the pot first.
The pot. You want to put zip in the mold that's catching the glass, but whatever is holding the glass to pour, you do not want. Oh, let's get.
Wait, I'll just move this. Oh, he's exhausted. Look, his tongue is sticking out. His tongue is sticking out. He was Chester, your fans are looking for you.
He's not a night person. Not a night cat.
He's dreaming.
You found Amazon has the Dunkin' Gold. Good to know, Katie. Good to know that.
All right.
I bet you that. Oh, I can't remember the ceramic place that's up there in Kansas City too. But where do we go on YouTube? I think you'll get a link, right?
Yeah, you'll get a link and it will take you to where you need to be.
Otherwise, you won't be able to find it. I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you so much for taking the time and spending and supporting our webinar program. We are thinking of kind of making a little bit of a club and having some benefits for some of you that have watched a couple of times with us, and we really appreciate it. We know that your time is very valuable, and we hope to always add content. I went over a little bit tonight, and I have a tendency, I just want to bring a lot of content to you. And so I'm going to try and be 90 minutes next time, but
Maybe we should
just say it's 2 hours.
Yeah, just say it's 2 hours. Just do a 2 hour.
Yeah.
And then it will be 2.5 hours. No, Karen, there's not going to be a password for that YouTube video because I find that gets too tricky. I could do it that way, but I think we'll just see how we're going. I trust people not to share the link, I think.
Yeah, and we can see if it looks like people are finding it, we'll know.
We'll find you. No, I'm kidding. I'm just
not
kidding.
These guys, but
No.
I just mean some random person out there on the planet that might accidentally find it.
No, I don't think they can search for it. Only the people with the link can watch it. So I'll do that now as soon as it goes. And if it jumped in the middle or you lost connection, it should not show up on the YouTube one. It should be fine. If you're watching this as a replay, don't forget you can email us or call us with questions. And even if you're watching it again and a question pops into your mind, you can reach out to us and we will respond. And just thanks a lot for being here. And we hope that you join our next webinar when we decide what that's going to be. Maybe I'll do a project.
What I was thinking? I know these guys, a lot of them have probably seen the slurry one, but we should probably offer it again at some point because we've had a lot of people.
Just a basic slurry?
Or like slurry 3.0.
Slurries are just fun to do.
They're fun and people are interested in them, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll think about it. But we are going to have some guest webinars.
Yeah.
Also, we just have not settled on them yet.
No.
I know Mark Hufford's going to do one at some point, but we're not sure exactly when. And so we will, if you guys have any people you'd like to see do webinars with us, let us know. And also, if you have a preference that you would like the webinars to be shorter, if you would like them to be during the day, if you would like, I don't know, Kelly to wear a hat.
If you'd like Stephanie to wear a mask.
I almost had to, didn't I?
No. Wait till you see what I'm going to make with slurry, Maria said.
Ooh, she should do the one. She should
be our guest slurry webinar.
That's right. So guys, what was I just going to say about that? Dadgummit.
Do you have the link for previous paid webinars we watched on YouTube? I'm in the process of uploading all of them to YouTube in this way. It just takes a lot of time. And Christine, I would need to see, I have some of them up there already. So Kelly needs a heavier blanket. I do. It's very chilly here. Actually, I was using Chester's blanket.
I have a confession. I turned the heater down
because
I didn't want it to be making a noise.
So it's your fault. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Christine, I will get back to you on which ones I already have up online, and I'll send you the links. And I think that's it. And I think we've rambled on enough.
I think so too. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you. And we hope that the audio and video, we're trying to make improvements every time we do it.
Yeah.
And I think it was better tonight, don't you?
Yeah. And we're going to make a webinar room, a studio. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night and a great weekend. Bye.